I'm Susan McGinnis with Clean Skies News at Harvard University in Cambridge, where there is a panel discussion being held by the American Academy of Arts and Sciences, and it's called The Future of Energy. Giving the keynote speech at that discussion is John Holdren. He is science advisor to the president. John, thanks so much for joining us.
Glad to be here.
Your big subject, your big message here is talking about when science and technology meets policy. It certainly is. It's got to be one of the more frustrating nexuses for a lot of people, but definitely, I guess, the only way anything like really gets done. What is your message here as you speak to these folks?
Well, first of all, I would say the nexus of science and technology with policy is a very exciting nexus, occasionally frustrating, but mostly exciting. And it's exciting because science and technology hold the keys in many cases to the biggest challenges we face. The economic challenge of recovery, getting the economy going again, how to use science and technology, biotech, information technology, nanotech, and so on to help drive that recovery. Huge challenges for science and technology in the energy and climate issue, which is one of the big themes at this particular meeting. Big challenges in the area of health and healthcare reform. How do we use information technology to get better outcomes at lower costs for all Americans in the health domain? Big challenges in the national security domain. And so really, if you think about it, science and technology are closely involved with so many of the big challenges we face, and we've got a president who understands that, who wants to advance science and technology for the purpose of being able to address these challenges more effectively.
That makes it an exciting time for energy and climate change. And you call climate change the most demanding of environmental challenges in terms of what's going to be required of science and technology. Can you give us an idea of the breadth of what's required? Are you talking about technology that doesn't exist yet?
Well, the reason the climate change challenge is such a big one is that the principal sources of the problem, the principal sources of global climate change, are our energy system, number one, and 80% of our energy worldwide is coming from the coal and oil and natural gas, whose combustion makes the carbon dioxide that is changing the climate. And most of the rest of the problem is coming from agricultural practices and from deforestation. So these are big, important activities in the domain of civilization's presence on this earth and our economic activities, our economies, our well-being. So they're not easy to change. When we say we've got to change in order to address the climate problem, we've got to change the energy system, we've got to stop deforestation, we've got to modify agricultural practices so our soils store more carbon and release less to the atmosphere. It takes a long time to do that. It takes some very substantial investments, but we can do it. The technologies to do a lot of this already exist, and the technologies to do the rest are at least on the drawing boards, and by making appropriate investments and efforts, we can advance them to the point where we can solve these problems.
Looking at the timetable that's out there, I just wanted to get your take on how pleased you are with the pace of progress on the UN climate talks. Now we have only about 5 days left before the Copenhagen talks begin. 2 weeks of Bangkok talks did lead to significant progress from what I understand. The text was pretty majorly whittled down. What's your sense of how Barcelona will go, and now that will be the last step on the road to Copenhagen?
I think we're getting there. It's obviously a heavy lift to get the whole world together on how we're going to address this problem as a planet. And that really is the aim of the Copenhagen Conference, to agree on the next steps going forward in which we can work to reduce the emissions of greenhouse gases around the world. There are obviously a lot of different interests at stake, development interests, economic interests, industrial interests. But I think we can get it done. I think we can get a good agreement in Copenhagen. The president thinks we can get a good agreement in Copenhagen. A major step on the way would be to get the energy and climate bill now in the Senate voted out positively in the Senate, so that both houses would have produced energy and climate legislation with a cap-and-trade approach to limiting heat-trapping gases.
And success at the bilateral talks that are still to come.
Absolutely. There are still bilateral talks to come, and I'm very optimistic about the outcomes. I think the leaders of the major emitting countries around the world have come to understand that they need to participate in solving this problem, because the problem is already affecting the interests of every country on the planet. Climate's already changing, harm is already resulting. We've got to fix this problem. Everybody knows it. And for that reason, I think we're going to get a good agreement in Copenhagen.
Okay. Mr. John Holdren, Science Advisor to the President, thank you so much.
My pleasure.
And I'm Susan McGinnis at Harvard University in Cambridge, Massachusetts, where the American Academy of Arts and Sciences is holding this panel discussion, The Future of Energy.